Good to have you on again, Chip.
Good to be with you, my friend.
Um, so we're so how would you um tell somebody when it feels like they just can't get out of a funk? It's like their friendships aren't going great. They're maybe aren't doing their best at work, feeling like prayers aren't working so good,
Ah,
and they're just kind of out of it, you know?
okay. This is all hypothetical, of course.
All hypothetical, yes.
You know, where do you want to start? You listed four things.
Um, Maybe friendships.
Okay. Long term, short term, just met, super deep, good friends, or yeah, I like hanging out with this guy friends.
Um, good friends. Um,
Okay.
but it seems like they're not as interested in being friends anymore.
Okay. Are they also a part of your work crew?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
You known them a while?
Yeah.
You don't have to go into super detail, but how long? And I mean,
Uh,
second grade or
about
college
eight.
or
College, so it's been about 8 years.
okay. You look like you're a sophomore in college, so I can't see you being 8 years on the other side of.
That's
That's a
great.
compliment, by the way.
I appreciate it.
Um, what were your shared interests?
I think we formed,
What brought you together?
uh, I would say probably common vision on trying to understand what's best in life and then how to live that.
Okay.
I think that was pretty common for all of us because we all came to a pretty tiny school in the middle of nowhere, you know. So it's a very unique place. But it seems like a lot of people stay together pretty close after college, but then a lot of them they kind of fall away from that group. And I'm trying to understand why that happens. It seems like if you're really close at one time, there's probably something still there to have the friendship on. But
It depends on what it is.
yeah,
No, it really does. Shared interests, shared wonder,
mm,
shared drive.
mm-hmm.
No, not so much. Those those components of friendship are good. They're rich, and they make up the vast majority of who and what people call friends. And that's fine. That's part of it. But what can take place, I'm not going to speak for you at all, but what can take place is different individuals get introduced into the mix. And I don't mean into the group, I mean into the life and lives of those in the group. That's a part of life. That's a great part of life. That is a healthy part of life. People that avoid that and create little bubbles, nah, stay away from them.
Mm.
No, those are Democrats in the making. Just stay away from them.
Funny.
But what can happen is the things that you shared, perhaps they came to an epiphany in their mind anyway. Some of the things that, you sat around and you drank great knee high and pontificated over checkers, or if you're very bright, which I am not, chess. Well, what is the meaning of life? And blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, that's great. And what about this? Oh, that's awesome too. Maybe somewhere along the line, outside the meeting of the circle,
Hmm.
they found an answer that satisfied that itch.
Mm.
Well, why didn't they just bring the answer to the group and let's keep the group tight? That's not how life works. Not for you, even. There are things that you're discovering, friendships that you're making. hopefully this one being one of them, that, you know, you don't say, hey guys, come over while I interview Chip and all that kind of stuff. Why is that, Tom?
I don't know. Maybe there's
Because
like,
this is
what?
our friendship,
Hmm.
and it's based on whatever clicked between us, period. Does that mean it wouldn't click with other people in your group? No, doesn't mean that at all. Does that mean that you're jealous of it and don't want anybody else in it? Can't speak to that, but I can't imagine why. I mean, I'm handsome, but we like girls, so that's not a problem.
Hmm.
Um, so maybe they got an answer that scratched an itch, and they don't feel the need to come to the group outings as much anymore, or the phone calls as much. It's funny that you should mention this, funny as in timely. One of my best friends in the world. I mean, we've known each other 23 years.
Wow.
Um, been through the shit together. Things that I won't discuss because it's nobody else's business. Uh, I was I was going through it and then coming out and didn't talk about it with hardly anybody. And then once you've gone through something life changing, it only destroys life if you let it. But there are a lot of things that will alter you, from motorcycle wrecks to redheads. There's a lot of things that can alter your life pretty drastically. But once you go through something like that, you can smell it on somebody else, even before they acknowledge it to themselves, i.e., relational things. And it's not that you're getting hit on by their wife or whatever. It's, yeah, this smells exactly like what I lived through for 16 years, 20 years, whatever.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of how that came about. When he started going through his, he thought he was giving me a great revelation. Hey man, just I ain't got nobody else to talk to, and we're tight. So I said, your wife's doing blah blah blah. How the hell did you know that? I said, I've known it for years. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have listened?
That's the question.
And so then we went through about 8 years of that. Guess what? He hasn't called. And I mean, we used to talk every day for years, every day, or at least every other day. And when he was in country on missions, he's special forces, uh, any chance he got, he was on the sat phone to me more than he was hardly anybody else. Well, partly because of what he was going through at home and didn't want to talk to her. But my point is, we're tight. It's been 2 weeks since he's called, and I'm going through a funk myself.
Hmm.
Um, so I have pinged him about 3 or 4 times, but I'm done. Am I done with him? No, not at all. If he called and said, man, I'm in a firefight, I'd end this call. I've already got my go bag in the truck, and I'd either send a bullet or take a bullet or both. But I'm done. If he's done, I'm good with that. Now, it's taken me 65 years to get that way, Tom. Why am I done? Because my self worth and my sanity no longer relies on somebody else's emotional proximity.
Hmm.
Took years to get there. Are you saying you don't need anybody else? No, I need people. I need this friendship. I love this friendship. I try to give you as much value in the things that I say. I'm dead honest with you. I'm dead honest with everybody. But I mean, I try to give you enough value, and I'm sure that you do. I pray that you do. And I can tell that you have if you don't now. you've got a dad, grandpa, uncles, blah, 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 good men. So you don't need me for that. But I try to be that crazy uncle that you're glad you know, but you may not want to invite to the family reunion. I'm good with that. But I don't need his contact for my self worth or my sanity.
Mm.
The code word these days is mental wellness. Shut up. Just quit renaming shit. Just your sanity. Why don't I? Because as I've gotten older and all of the years and all of the things that I have done without, where I was starving, I was dying of thirst, if you will, emotionally, psychologically, and everything else, is where a lot of my damage to relationships came from. The code word 30 years ago was codependency. And, I need her, she needs me. I hate her, she hates me, but I need her and she needs me, or, whatever.
Yeah.
What the hell? Far too common in human nature. When all of that blew up, then I scrambled around and looked for things, you know, people to replace it with, found a few, made a big mess, got in a hurry, you know. People used to ask me, they said, well, how long should I wait before I get married? I said, until you can't stand it, being single another second, and then wait another 5 years.
Oh,
What do you share other than need? What do you share other than passion? What do you share other than or deeper than, nice ass?
yeah.
There's a show on that I absolutely love. It's on RFD TV. All right. You ever heard of RFD TV?
I haven't, no.
You city kids. You city kids. I don't know what to do with you. RFD TV. It's on 345 if you've got direct TV. And it's rural America television. Now, there's a lot of farm shows, and there's a lot of, somebody Pete that does antique tractor shows, and I like that. I like that.
That's cool.
Oliver's and Massey's and John Deere's, and hell, I almost got in trouble and bought a Lamborghini tractor one time because I saw it. See,
Yeah.
I did the same thing. They did it, and it was a gorgeous tractor. It's from the early 50s and or late 50s. Anyway, I said, that is gorgeous. I've never seen anything like that. And the guy said, yeah, it's a Lamborghini tractor, blah, blah, and it's, 65 horse, blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, I've got to find me one of those. And I was making bank, baby. I was working 100 hours a week doing turnarounds at refineries and stuff. I already had 11 show cars and 3 bikes. I was like, let's get a tractor. I found one, and I don't know enough about tractors to build it. I don't have that much interest. So I found one that was just, showroom perfect. $35,000 showroom perfect. I thought, no, for a yard ornament, hell no, I'm not spending that kind of money. But at any rate,
Oh,
they have a show called Farm Her. All right. And it's about these lady farmers. They also have one called Ranch Her. Woo-hoo-hoo. Woo-hoo-hoo. Yeah, there's some pretty ranchers. Of course, I always knew that. But one of the things I love about it, and the one that I just saw, they're in Illinois, and they're in their early 30s, got 2 little kids. Their partnership, Tom. I mean, she's cute as a bug. Yes, she is. He's a damn farmer. He's probably going to get fat here in another 5 or 6 years anyway. But my point is, he's a good, solid young man. They met at an FFA thing. Da 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 da. And no, this one they didn't. I watch every episode, so I can't keep them all straight. She was actually a representative for a seed company. Now, the salesman was there, but she was there to give technical support. Well, what about in this soil and with this amount of rain and what yields? And he just admitted, he goes, I was going to buy whatever amount of corn seed I had to get a date with her.
That's hilarious.
And they've been married, I don't know, 15 years, 12 years. Why am I talking about it? Because they are partners, Tom. They're deeply in love, but they work their ass off on that farm. And it's three generations. The grandparents are there, they're there, and their kids are growing up in it. And I mean, she takes care of two little ones and also gets out on the tractor and runs a drill or, a one way or a disc every once in a while and helps with all kinds of stuff. She doesn't do the books because she cooks. So every day that man gets a home cooked meal, and on his little styrofoam thing, um, like the to-go box at a Mexican restaurant, when he opens up the lid, I'm so proud of you, babe. I'm so thankful for you, babe. Love you, sweetheart. Holy cow.
Hmm.
He is a success because he's a good man. He's a super success because he's got a woman that believes in him and lets him know it and lets everybody else know it. And she's a super success because he's proud to have her as his bride, his lover, the mother of his children, and his partner on that farm. I would give anything to have a partner like that. But you got to look deeper than nice ass.
That's for sure.
We're still on your original question, friends. Why did they come and go and that kind of stuff? You can get married because of shared values. Well, we both go to the same church and we both went to the same college and we're both farmers and we both, blah, blah, blah. And she drives an Oldsmobile and I like Oldsmobiles. So let's get married. And they hate each other's guts because she didn't have a nice ass or whatever the reason is. It has to be deeper. Remember, I asked you in the beginning, what was it? How long have you known them? What brought you together? What were the common interests? Whatever. If you'd have said, well, one in particular, we were in a terrible pickup wreck together and we both survived, but we spent 3 days fighting off bears and killer elk and that kind of stuff to get back out of the mountains. Well, if you go that deep, you may not be close anymore simply because the thing that brought you close makes you uncomfortable these days, but you'll always be bound together. But to come together on a high school basketball court, a college campus, or anything else, and you share religious beliefs, political beliefs, wonder about, philosophy or theology or anything else, and you can scratch that itch with each other for 15, 20 years. And then all of a sudden they're like, I've got all the questions answered on that I don't need that anymore. What's binding them to you anymore? Or they wind up dating somebody. And they're like, well, I'd rather stare into her green eyes than sit around and talk Nietzsche. What? I can't believe that. That's incredible. Who wouldn't want to talk about Nietzsche? Me. But so the variables of why friends come together are the same that why friends drift apart. So should I try to save it? You be who you are and you'll attract the people that will stay. You go chasing after people that drift, you will stop being who you are and you'll wind up 10, 15 years down the road with nobody close. And you're looking back and yourself is standing back at the beginning going, I never moved. I don't recognize you anymore, but I never moved.
Mm.
There's a period of funk in all of that. That's just part of it. I've been rewatching um, episodes of MASH. Okay, the first 5 seasons, you can throw them away. Frank Burns, I don't, can't stand the thought of that guy. But when Emerson Winchester came in and BJ Honeycutt and all the rest of them, I watched the very first episode of MASH live when it came on. I'm that old. And I watched the very last episode of MASH with what, 33 million other people. And I cried and all that kind of stuff. I was a tough college guy, but oh man, you know. Well, now that I'm 65 years old and it's back on WeTV, I'm looking at it with different eyes. When I was young, it made perfect sense to me. The government sucks, the military sucks, blah, 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 blah. Then I went through a period where you commie bastards, you're going against our government, you're going against our military. I've reached an age where now I'm going on. I understand how you go through 29 hours of surgery and you block out the pain and you block out the screams and you block out the stuff because you've got to do your job because the next kid is waiting on you to be 100% ready for them to. And then going and getting drunk off your ass at the officers club. I understand you go through the list. But another interesting thing has come about. I understand more that you can go through 2.5 years, and that's about what that military action was, 50 to 53, but depending on what month you got there and blah, 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 you could be there about 2.5 years if you died, if you didn't die. I can understand how you could wish to God that you were gone every second you were there. And then, like on the very last episode, there's a catch in your throat, there's lead in your feet, you're finding it hard to move, even as you're dying to get home, because you're leaving the one thing that kept the glue of your sanity and your soul together. There are friendships like that. And they need to come to an end. Not never talk to each other, not hate each other, not any of that stuff. But the thing that bound you together is over. And if you're going to survive it mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you've got to let it go. Because that closeness is a constant grinding reminder of that which you just got set free from. And you can wind up hating each other by trying to stay close.
Hmm.
Does that make any sense to you?
That makes a lot of sense.
All right. So the momentary or short, every second feels like a year, funk of when friendships alter, change, go away, whatever. That's just part of life. All right. What do you do? No man can tell you, Tom, what to do. And there's far too many people with, well, if it was me, I'd shut up. Just shut up. Go live your own life. Leave the boy alone. But if you want to know what I have learned to do, that not only helped me survive, but has been a part of the vibrance that God has put in my life, I'd be happy to share that with you.
Please. Yeah.
All right. Is that making too much noise?
I'm not hearing anything.
Ha! I love it. All right. One, learn the truth that your value is not based on, tied to, or even polished up and increased by the presence of any other bag of dust. And that includes a precious bride, a child, a good friend, a brother, a mom, or a dad. It's a spooky thing to even speak, but it's one of the first and most freeing truths there are. And I'm not talking about being an island. That sucks. I was a forced island for a lot of years. And then after everything fell apart in my life, I was uh, a wounded, dangerous island. It was just better if nobody was around, period. But it sucked. I didn't like it. But it was necessary for the time that I was in. So where does our value come from? Well, it goes back to his word. For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus. Now, hold on. Don't let go of the first to get to the second. We're God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus. Well, who created us? God did. His hands, God Almighty's hands, crafted us. For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus. Well, there's purpose right there. You know, we weren't just flung out like, I don't know, a shovel full of sand on a stack of crap. Every one of us was handcrafted. That's why DNA is so uniquely individual. It's not just our fingerprints, it's our iris. It's the ear. The ear is more telling than the fingerprints. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. No.
Did you know that our gait, the way that we walk, unless it's been altered by major injury or illness, can identify us no matter what we do to the face?
Whoa.
Why? Because God built us unique. And he created us in Christ Jesus. For what purpose? And I've said it before. For good works. That's part of that sanity thing. For we're God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works. There's the purpose, which he prepared in advance for us to walk in. How did people like, and I can't remember his name, Neiman Muller? You know who I'm talking about?
Not sure. No.
World War II. He was one of the people that stood up and tried to save as many Jews as he could before they were sent off to the Holocaust setup, and several others. And then you go down through all of the years, all of the martyrs that have been, the Covenanters that I told you about, the little girl and the woman and everybody in that village. They basically stood alone. Now they stood together, you know, and that woman gave that little girl strength of spine. She sure did. But the little girl knew her value enough that all it did was strengthen what was already there, because you couldn't create it, not at that moment, not when you're about to die. You don't just create a spine when you're just a few minutes away from being dead, but you can strengthen it for each other. So you've got to learn that your value does not come from anything except God. Those that go the wrong way with it are called narcissists. I have great value no matter who's with me, who's not with me, no matter who I hurt, no matter, okay, that's not at all what God meant. That's not what anybody else wants. The only people that want that are the narcissists themselves. You know, I think it would be marvelous just to create a room about the size of my shop and put 30 narcissists in here and lock the door. They'd kill each other within 3 days. Then you get another batch of narcissists and go again. But at any rate, I digress. The second thing you have to understand is the vacuum of one person leaving or one group of people leaving only makes room for someone else to come and fit. But if you change your shape all the time and you go into this shape, the people that would have fit perfect with the good you don't fit and they don't stay. And then you find some other twisted soul and they come together and you try to rescue each other, try to save each other, and wind up destroying each other. That's codependency. Being who you are is a good thing. And you have friends that fit in there, Tom, and they fit well. And then all of a sudden they notice a little redhead. And they say, you know what? I'm going to go over here. And you're like, wait a minute. What the hell? I don't have a redhead. What the hell? Come on back here. I'm lonely. I'm whatever. But somebody else comes along and says, hey, look at that. I fit. And it can happen 100, 200, 300 times in your life. That's the way God built this world. Now, there are some that they never leave home, and they're from Cement, Oklahoma, or Gillette, Wyoming, or, Sinclair, Wyoming. Let's put that in there. And they're like, I don't understand this. I ain't got no problem. I'm still married to my cousin, My sister's still my mother, and whatever. I don't understand y'all. But you put them in a bigger world, a bigger fish tank, they're lost. That's why they never leave. And that's fine. Stay where you are. The rest of us, we're all over the place. And those lulls come along all the time. Don't chase anybody. Be who you are and keep the friendship door wide open until or unless they shoot you through the open door. If they shoot you through the open door, simply shut the door and say, well, I wish you well, but no more. And then go on. That doesn't mean the door's not open for other people. It just means that door for them is no longer there. But unless or until they shoot you through it, and I'm not talking about a wounded person, to hell with you. Well, if they're wounded, if they're hurt, and they haven't told you the reason for the hurt, they just explode with the pain, hey, don't hold that against them. We're all going to be there sometime. But if they take careful aim and shoot you, just shut the door, because they can't kill you. That's the neat thing about it. That's another thing about knowing your worth. So there's the lull of friends. And you're going to change. You're going to be the one drifting from time to time. All right? Just let people be who they are. Give people room to be who they are. And you'll wind up with people that you at least go with. The fevered, intense pitch of childhood and adolescent and college age friendships and loves and all that kind of stuff is not meant to last forever. That wears people out. But the comfortable, what's up? What's up, man? How you doing? Okay. And I'm not talking about shallow. I'm talking about you're just comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
Those are rich. Those are rich. And there'll be plenty of those. Does that make sense on the friend lull?
It makes a lot of sense.
So what do you do in the meantime while you're in the middle of the lull? You can mentally give assent to or acknowledge a fact and still hurt like hell. So what do you do in the middle of the time while you're going, okay, I know the reason and I know it's going to get better, but right now this sucks. The hell do I do now? What do you do now? Do you want to know?
I would, yeah.
Or do you want to give us your wisdom?
I didn't have much to give there.
I didn't either for over 40 years. I used to fill my life up with anything and everything manly that I could come up with because of a hunger that I had, not just to be a man. I already was a man. I was working my ass off. My word was good and all of that. I just, that was part of it. So I've shown you all my bows. Actually, I haven't. I've got about. Hold on just a second. Let me.
You're good.
I hope that's a friend of mine saying he's got work for me, but he can wait. Um, I've got a bunch of more bows, but bows and guns and see, I, they're not really for my protection anymore. I just love going out and shooting. I live out in the middle of nowhere and go shoot all the time. You see the turkey back there, right?
Yep.
And there's another one over there. I used to guide turkey hunts and all that kind of stuff. None of those things is meant to replace friendship, but those things in combination can take the edge off. I'm not talking about escapism. I'm just talking about until I can do this, I'm going to do this. Until I have a friend to sit down with, have a cup of coffee, and that kind of stuff, I'm not sitting down and grinding my heart and my mind and everything else into powder, wondering, what could I change? What did I do wrong? What can I do to get them back? What do I need to do to go find another one? What? Hey, no, 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 no. Well, got a little time on my hands. I've got 32 bows in here. I can shoot at least 4 or 5 of them today and pretty much wear myself out on that. I got guns. I can go shoot guns. I've got a couple of trucks that need some work. I got that. Find things to do that when you're done with it, you're like, that needed done. And God, you gave me the grace to do a good job of it. Thank you. And your mind's a little more at ease. And your stuff's in better shape. Or your aim's a little better. Is that going to fill up all the hours? No, because most of them are the hours that you spent with that friend. If it's from 4 to 7 p.m., 4 to 7 is going to be hard. Another time it's going to be hard is between 1 in the morning and 4 in the morning. You wake up to go to the bathroom. Young people don't. Old guys do. Okay.
Mhm.
And if you can't train your mind, I can't do anything about this at the moment, but I'm not going to let it grind me. Well, making that statement doesn't change a damn thing, but making that determination does. Read a book, watch an old movie, a good movie, do something. Don't make that your entire life, 24 hours a day, or you'll be a couch potato. But while you're in the lull, go about being the best you that you can be. And new friends will come along and say, 66 Ford? Yeah. Yeah, my dad had one of those. I got a 69 I'm working on. I'm wanting to put disc brakes on it. Well, anything from 73 through 79 will bolt right up. Is that right? You just started your first friend conversation with a new person or whatever it may be. Do you understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Don't go hunting it or you'll find freaks. Just go about being who you are, the best of who you are. And somebody's going to say, hey, I got one of those, or hey, I like listening to that, or hey, did I hear you talking about Teddy Roosevelt the other day? You into history? Yeah, afraid so. Yeah, me too, dude. New conversation, new friendship. Is it going to be as deep and rich and long lasting as the one that's drifted? I have no idea. Doesn't matter. The second thing that you do, first, know your value. Second thing that you do is go about being who you are. And the third thing that you do, and this is whether it's a lover, i.e., wife, girlfriend, blah, 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 brother, i.e., friend that you've had a long time and that you talk to about more things than you did your own family, sometimes about your family, without naming names, of course. And the wind is whistling through your bones and you're hurting, you're aching bad, and no book's going to cure it, no movie's going to cure it. The neighbors are going to call 911 if you go to shoot your guns at 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's when you fall down, either in your heart, your mind, or on your knees physically or whatever. I'm going nuts, God. I'm grinding here. I need your spirit. I need your help. I know you're with me. I know that you love me. I know that you care about me. Your son dying on the cross, and then when he came back to life, not killing all of us is a pretty good sign that you love us. But I'm just telling you, right now, at this moment, I'm hurting. Even with all of that evidence of your love, I'm hurting and I'm lost and I'm going nuts. And you may talk for 2 or 3 hours and you're not going to hear any voices and there's not going to be any feathers from angels' wings brushing your hair or anything else. At least I've never had that. I think it'd scare the crap out of me if I did. But without fail, every time I do wind up finally going to sleep. And when I wake up, the weight is not near as heavy as it was. And that's a good thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
All right, there's the lull in friendship. What's the next lull?
Um, well,
You said something about job performance.
I did. I noticed it's
If you
easy to
don't want
look.
to go into that, we won't go into that.
Yeah. Well, it might be connected to the same thing. I think it's like when you feel like things aren't going right, it's hard to give your best, you know?
I do.
So that's what brought that to mind. It
Okay.
just feels like when you're in the day to day and you're doing the same actions, screwing the same screws, hammering the same boards, you're just like, I want to do a great job, but I don't really feel like I have my best to give, you know? It's like you want to give your best, but you don't feel like you can, and you're just like, what's the point?
Mm. Two separate things you said there. You don't even realize you did it. Two separate things you said. You don't feel like you have your best to give. That's one point. And then you said the main thing, which is different. Do you know what you said?
But you want to give your best?
The last thing you said.
Um,
What's the point? That's a different animal. That's a different animal. Wanting to give your best and not being able to is a big hairy dog that's shedding. What's the point? Is a wolf. You can subdue a big hairy dog that's shedding. You got to kill a wolf. Did you know that every wild animal, feline, canine, doesn't make any difference. Every wild animal, every wild bovine has heavier bones, thicker skin, stronger hearts, and better immune systems than every single domesticated one.
hmm.
Did you know that?
No, that's really interesting.
They have to. They're tearing through briars and brambles and things of that nature. They're fighting for their very life and survival far more often. I'm not saying that others don't, but far more often than any domesticated animal. And stray cats that grow up on the city streets and in the alleys and stuff, they have stronger systems, not just stronger muscles, but stronger nervous systems than house cats. point, when you're going through a lull at work and you're like, I'm just not into this today. I want to. I mean, I'm going to keep my word. I'm going to do my best, but I don't have the juice. I don't have the ganas, the bone deep desire that I normally do. But I'm still going to double check this and make sure that it's square, that it's plumb, that it's, da 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 da. I'm going to count, just in case. When you're nailing, uh, wall studs and that kind of stuff, it's generally 16 pennies per 2x4, right?
Yep.
Bing, 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 bing. Before I set this wall up, you got it laying down, you know, with your sill plate and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to take a minute and I'm going to, okay, two. I must have been thinking about something because I only got one in that one. Or the second one is drifting out there. I don't do that kind of work. Well, that's going to take another 30 seconds or another minute and a half or whatever to get that one clawed out and put a new one in straight. I'm going to do it. I don't feel like it. I'm not really into this, but I'm going to do it because my name's on this work. That's the big fluffy dog that's shedding. When you reach a point where you say, what's the point? You need to take the day off. Well, I'll miss a paycheck. Miss the damn paycheck. The people that are buying that house deserve to have every nail in there and everything right and straight and plumb and true and all that kind of stuff. And your name deserves to be remembered on every job you've done as one of the best in the world at what you do. And I'll guarantee you, you miss a couple of days paid just because you got a shitty attitude, you will straighten your shitty attitude out.
That's for sure.
I'm going to buy that new truck, damn it. So I'm going to go ahead, whatever it takes, I'm going to get back at it. Watch out for the wolf. What's the point? When did you start building houses?
About 3 years ago.
How good were you the very first day on the job?
Pretty bad.
How good are you now?
Probably above
Pretty
average.
damn good,
Yeah.
right?
I'd say pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. Are you done? I mean, can you get any better?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's that ganas. Refine it, feed it. Well, okay. I knew two different families back in the early 90s, and the economy was going through a little bit of an ink. And they were going to build sheds. The sheds were just coming on, everything from 8x10s to, I don't know, 12x30s or, whatever you could legally put on the road and haul somewhere and then skid it off and put it on blocks and there's your little shop or whatever. The one father and son were very talented because the dad had been a contractor 20 years before. And then when his son came along, he actually got into killing bugs and was making as much money doing extermination work as he had as a contractor. Now, he was not the contractor because that's the guy that makes the money because he buys the tracts of land and all of that. But I mean, he made good money. He was very good at it. And he taught his son how to do things. They said, oh, it's going to be easy. We're going to make a ton of money and we're going to do this and that. The others didn't know much. He was a mechanic and he wasn't getting a lot of mechanic work because the farm machines, he was a farm mechanic. They were fixing them themselves out in the field. 6 months later, the dad and son that he was a contractor were out of business. They were throwing things up just, and they were nice. They got so bored with it, they were like, nah, screw this. So he went into car washes. He bought car washes. He was just always looking for the easiest way to make the most money. See, he didn't have any ganas for being a craftsman. He just wanted to be rich. The other guy, him and his son, this is neat. I like this. I don't get as dirty as I do, crawling underneath a Massey Ferguson or a John Deere or a Case or a Gleaner combine.
Yeah.
And that was 1993. And the last time I knew of them was 1999. And they had 2 other locations and were selling right at 300 a month.
Wow.
And loving it. Not because of the money it made. Their margins weren't that big. That was another thing. The other people tried to hit home runs every time. This is worth $12,000. Well, I can buy it for $7,500. Oh, yes, but look at this. And we use blah, 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 blah. Well, it wasn't worth $5,000 more, is the point. When you're going through a lull at work, that's part of life. That's like having the cold or the flu. You've heard me say it before. Move at the speed of success. And there's going to be days that's slower than other days. All right? There's going to be days where you're not zipping through and laying, I don't know, how many hundreds of feet of copper pipe or flex pipe or whatever can you lay in one day? I don't know. But tomorrow, if you're in a lull, it may be 2/3 of that, as long as every inch is laid with the same attention to detail, the same, I'm proud to have my name on that, excellence. That's success. Because if you just go ahead and you lay it all out just like you always did and you don't really care and that kind of stuff, and then you got just one dry joint, let alone 2 or 3, where you didn't prep it right, or you didn't get enough of the purple, pink, whatever glue you use on it, on the pipe. I'm not a plumber. Don't want to be. Don't even want to play one on TV. But I've had to do my own stuff a couple of times. But you understand what I'm saying? Of course, now they got those new quick connects. So you just push it in and you better make sure you're right, because once it's in, that baby's in.
Yeah.
But
Crazy.
then you lay the same amount, but you didn't really care. So you didn't check every inch. You didn't check every joint. And then you cover it. And it's totally fine for 3 months, 6 months, whatever. And then all of a sudden you get a phone call. You got to come back out and tear this all up because it's leaked. Our water bill was $2,000 last month, and that's bullcrap. Something ain't right, and it ain't us. You got to go back out there and you got to redo it. Is that a success?
No.
Move at the speed of success each day. And the speed of success is as fast as you can do it, knowing that every inch, every bolt, every line of code, whatever you do for a living, you'd be proud to have your name on it 20 years from now. That's success. Lulls happen. That's just part of it. Sometimes you may need to knock off early. Sometimes you may need to take a 2-hour lunch, whatever you can do. If it's not your company, you may not be able to do that. Never make working, regardless of what's going on, your life habit. That's the left hand. I did that for a lot of years and almost died 3 times. I kept working. I ignored what was going on. And I was 12 hours away from being dead one time in Borger, Texas, from a MRSA infection that to hell with it. I'll deal with it. Ain't no big deal. And I nearly died on the job. Didn't learn my lesson too well. Because 5 years later, I was told, you've waited too long. Stage 4 metastatic cancer. You're ate up. We can't save you. My point, don't make working, regardless of what's going on, the whole point of your life. That was part of my manhood. That was part of keeping my word. And I'm still going to keep my word. And I'm still going to do the right thing. But if I've got 105, 103 to 105 fever for 5 nights in Borger, Texas, when it was 5 degrees and 40-mile-an-hour winds, and I never slowed down, never stopped, I slowed down, I never stopped. That's bullshit. I'll work 2 nights like that, but if I'm still that bad off the third night, I'm calling in. And I've never done that in my life, ever. Never called off, not one day in my adult life. Took great pride in that. I'm gonna call off. I'm gonna get it cut out. I'm gonna get something done. Then I'm getting back to work as fast as I can. The right hand is don't ever make, well, I don't feel absolutely top of my game, so yeah, I think I'll take the afternoon off and go fishing, go play golf, go whatever. See, that's the right and the left hand of a wasted life. With this hand, your children grow up without a father. Your wife gets old without a connected partner. Now, are you going to miss some games if you're taking good care of your family? Yes. Are you going to be home late or be gone for months at a time sometimes? Yes. But I have been around those families that was what was going on. And mama and the kids, at least once a month, you're bringing home $4,000 a week after taxes, sucker. You can afford to fly your wife and 2 kids out to see you for 2 days once a month. I'm talking about in the trades that I'm a part of. Now they're working 100 hours a week. Okay. Well, you guys make a ton of money. We earn every penny. And the other one, your kids grow up without the things that they need. And I'm not talking about new trucks, new cars, PlayStations, and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about seeing character, integrity, courage over the long haul. They need to see that. And those are the 2 hands that lead to a wasted life. Does that make sense?
I think so.
These go through lulls and never pay attention to them and wind up dying of a heart attack at 42. These go through lulls and wind up destitute because they keep going through damn jobs because, well, I don't feel like it today, so I'm not showing up today. Well, everybody has days like that.
Yeah.
But you can't run a dadgum business with a whole bunch of people that every time they feel like they don't feel like it, they just don't show up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't need your hands dying at the age of 42. You don't need your hands not showing up. That's where maturity comes together.
Mm.
You didn't ask for that, but there it is.
No, that was really good.
That's part of lulls when you don't feel like it. But again, I want to give my best. I'm just not really into it because of whatever. That happens to everybody. And your speed of success is going to be slower at those times. That's fine. As long as every inch, every bolt, every line of code, everything that you do, you can still say, 20 years from now, I'm still going to be proud to have my name on it. But that wolf, what's the point? And that whispers on everybody's neck. That whispers right behind here all the time.
Yeah.
Well, my wife and kids don't appreciate me anyway, so what's the point? The boss is a dick and doesn't treat me right anyway, so what's the point? Uncle Sam's just going to take it all in taxes anyway, so what's the point? The redheaded married somebody else, so what's the point? Can you tell I used to like redheads?
Yeah. A little bit.
Oh, I like brunettes and blondes too, but anyway, redheads were a weakness. You got to kill the wolf. You can take care of the dog, but you got to kill the wolf. All right, what next?
I'm thinking I might have to pack up.
Yep, that's fine. John's going to want me to call him back.
Okay. I figured that was about an hour or so,
Okay.
but those are really
Now,
good. Yeah.
here's the next thing. When I was going through the fields of stone and the fires of hell, I was utterly alone down here. Now, the king was with me. I knew it, but I didn't feel it. Okay. I knew it and it made me mad sometimes. You're with me, but I still feel like shit. You know, what the hell? But down here I was alone. All right. And I swore up and down that if I survived it, I was never going to let anybody else that wanted my help go without my help. My friend that I told you about, I told him, and I've told him 1,000 times, I've told you, I tell everybody this. If you need me, you call. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. I don't care if it's, I don't want to hear anything. I don't need your damn wisdom. I don't need your opinions. I just need to know I'm not alone. Fair enough. Then we'll sit here on the phone for however long it takes for you to finally say, "You still there?" Yeah, I'm still here. How come you're not talking? You said you didn't. I don't care what it said. Let's talk. Okay, then let's talk. Right. And I've been there for him and I've been there for others. All right. I'm going through a lull. I'm in my 5th month without work. And I win national awards. Everything's by God's grace. None of it's me. But you've seen them. I've won national awards over and over and over again. I just earned one, whatever you want to say. I just earned one from the Army Corps of Engineers, for goodness sake. It was the safest project that they had in year ending 24. And the reference letter from the corporate director of the company that I was a consultant to said, man, outstanding, incredible, phenomenal work, blah, 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 blah. Well, how come you're not doing another one for them? Because the company folded after that project because the owner of the company, he was looking for that. He was looking to swing a home run, and that one was $7 million. And, after all expenses and everything, it was still like $3.5 million in his pocket. And he said, yep, I'm done. I'm out, which is fine. It's his company. You can do whatever you want. So that's why I'm not doing another project for them because they're no longer there. But I'm on my 5th month of living off my savings. I'm on my 5th month of you're incredible. You're outstanding. Your resume is unbelievable. Your references are just shocking. They're so good and blah, blah, blah. And you're overqualified. I'm on my 5th month. My 2nd month, my wife being back in Pennsylvania taking care of her folks that have cancer. And her hands are full with that. And her heart is full with that. And her mind is full with that. She can't be there for me right now in that regard. And I understand that. She doesn't need to be. She needs to be focused on what's going on. So I'm in a lull. The only thing I've got is my good looks, my bows. What are you smiling at? Quit doing that. I could use a call from my friend from time to time. And this is right now the time when he's found something else. And he's busy as hell with his job. I get that. He's not in country. I know that. He's just about out. He's 53. So I think September, that's his last chip in the game, and he's earned it. I mean, 23, 24 years, he's earned it. And he's been in the shit. But right now, when I could use him calling about every 2 or 3 days saying, hey, you find work yet? No. Well, that sucks. You remember that elk hunt we took, up in outside of Walden, Colorado back in 2008? Yeah, boy. And we reminisce or whatever. Does it make me, any money? No. Does it help me find a job? No. Would it help my mind? Yeah, you bet your ass. By design, by desire, and by God's grace, I live out in the middle of nowhere and I like it. I see my neighbors about 3 times a week. As they're driving by, they wave, I wave, and that's the end of it. Perfect neighbors. I shoot, they shoot, you know, perfect neighbors. But I don't have anybody to talk to. End it with this. Have you noticed my posts on LinkedIn?
Yep.
What do I talk about? What do I post about?
God's presence in your life,
Yep. And
how to accept that.
yep. And oh, you young people.
I know. I'm slow sometimes, Chip.
No, you're perfect. You're just fine. And my determined, dogged desire to never turn loose of either one of those truths. My God is with me even in my lulls. Always has been, always will be. And the more that I seek and am determined, not in some phony, I'm going to do this, whether, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, look, self. Yeah, you're not feeling good right now. Yeah, the bank account is draining down. Yeah, as far as you can see, there's not much out there coming down the pike. How do you think Abraham felt when God said, Abraham, take your son, your only son, Isaac, that you love, and sacrifice him? The reason I did the 1, 2, 3, 4, well, God doesn't know me. God doesn't, I'm not on his radar. Take your son, your only son, Isaac, that you love, and sacrifice him. God knew him. And Abraham obeyed the very next morning. What did he tell Sarah? Nobody's ever, in no sermon ever, has anybody ever mentioned, Sarah, I'm fixing to go stab our boy in the heart and burn him up, as a burnt offering to God on some mountain that he's going to show me. What did he tell Sarah? What did Sarah tell you? I don't know. I don't think he told her anything. That's another story for another day. But I do know that early the next morning, with 2 servants, or at least more than one, it was servants. I think it says 2. Don't call that gospel because I don't know for sure. They took the sticks. They took the fire. And they took the sun. And they traveled for 2 or 3 days. And God said, here's the mountain. What did he tell Isaac along that route? He didn't tell him jack. Well, how do you know that? Because they get there. And they get all the way up to the mountain. And he builds the altar. This wasn't a 5-minute job. These were big stones, and it was built up, 3, 4 feet high and that kind of stuff. Then they arranged the sticks. And Isaac says, well, we've got the sticks. We've got the fire. Where's the lamb? God will provide a lamb, my son. And then he bound him, laid him on there. What's going through Isaac's mind? And then he takes a knife and he raises it up and he's just about to plunge it down and take his best aim so that the boy suffers as little as possible. And an angel stopped him. I haven't been called to go that far in my faith, Tom. I can damn sure keep my mind, my heart, and my words and my outward, not persona, but my communications positive encouraging, because there's other people going through lulls, and there's other people going through a lot worse than I am. There's people who have kids at Le Bonheurs or St. Jude's, and they lost their job. So piss on my little needs at the moment. I'll go through my lulls. I'll deal with what I got to deal with. And yes, I have my 2 a.m. things where I'm like, hey, you've done it 1,000 times, but I'm telling you right now, I'm scared. I'm lost. I'm going nuts. I did it last night. But when I wake up, I'm not being fake with anybody when I say it's a good day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. If not for me, at least for others who don't have him the way that I do, so that they might find him and have far more than they do already. That's the lull that I found myself in. I want to do my best. My heart's just not really been in it. But I move slow enough, firm enough, and sure enough, hopefully, that everything I say and every move I make, you or anybody else can say, you know what? That man's on track. And I'm glad I know him. And that's the best I know to tell you. What are you thinking?
Just thinking that's pretty amazing way to think about that, you know. I when you break down some of those stories of the Bible and you actually put yourself in their mind, then you start to understand, I think, a lot more of like this is the faith that God like the faith of the faithful. It changes your idea of like what actually uh, it's like what's actually important and what are you willing to do to follow him. How my words are not coming to me right now, but
No, you're fine.
yeah,
You're fine. You need to stop doing that.
yeah.
That's that second guessing of yourself and the self doubt.
Yeah, it's pretty strong sometimes.
Trust me, I will keep you humble. I will bitch slap you if you ever get too big for your britches.
Okay, thanks.
You don't need to do it for yourself. Um, you're a good young man. I enjoy it. This gives me strength. This gives me not a full tank of ganas, but it sure doesn't hurt.
Shouldn't hurt. Yeah,
And I appreciate that. Thank you.
that was a really good conversation today.
It's the kind I like to have.
A lot of good stories, a lot of good thoughts. Helped me out, so thank you.
You have a good day, my friend.
You too, Chip. Take
All right.
care.
Bye bye.